I want to tell you a story about the SQL Server MP evolution from ancient time, okay, at least for me, from 2008. It was a year when we released a version of the SQL Server 2008 management pack. It was like an old school, providing basic functionality. Sometimes, you know, it caused some performance degradation monitoring system and also generates some false alerts, which is really painful for us. For operations, for DBAs, for IT administrators, it's really painful. By the way, in 2010, we've released the next version of that management pack, SQL Server 2008 R2. And that time, we've added a lot of new features. First of all, we added really new and improved the space monitoring capability. We solved the problem with false alerts. We solved the problem with the performance degradation monitoring system, which was really serious. It was a great time for SQL Server MP, from my perspective. But it was not the end, of course. In 2012, we've released the next version for 2008-12 version of the SQL Server, where we added support for always-on. We added policy-based monitoring for always-on capability of SQL Server MP, for SQL Server. We also added monitoring for mirroring, replication, for database backup. We added a lot, much more new features. And now, in 2013, here's three important things which I want to share with you today. Three important parts of new SQL Server MP functionality. Let's go. The first thing, we've added a lot of new metrics, performance collection rules, which right now provide you in the SCOM through our management pack, additional metrics which allow you to understand how actively your database is used, to understand what the load for your database, whether it's monitoring, whether it's performance collection for active connections, sessions, requests, and of course, we added a performance collection rule to monitor a number of simultaneous database transactions. Of course, there are no monitors on these performance collection rules, you know, because there are no any industry standard what is bad and what is good for these metrics. There are no common thresholds. By the way, these metrics could be very valuable when you need to perform the root cause analysis, when you suffer from some performance issue on the SQL Server MP, and you need to figure out, okay, is it caused by some huge load from my application, from our users, or some other reason? Next, we've added new performance monitors to the SQL Server MP. We added some new features in space monitoring. We added performance monitors for disks where your database files are allocated. We also added monitoring to check the CPU usage, to CPU consumption by the SQL Server process, and added monitoring for thread usage. And of course, we added some monitors to care about memory, which is really new for SQL Server MP. We haven't known it before, and right now we have some monitors which allow you to understand how we're using cache, how efficiently we use cache, and how we use memory. And of course, we added some monitors which allow you to detect cases when database issue is caused with a poor database design or poor application design. So you know that sometimes it could be a reason. And finally, it's a thing which is not a new performance counter, new monitor. It's a really impressive thing which were absent in all versions of previous management pack. We've done it because of new capabilities of the SCOM 2012, where we're able to implement absolutely custom graphical interface, absolutely custom new usage experience for you. And I hope that you will be really excited to see what we've done for you. Let's go to my favorite part of any session. Let's go to live demo. So we have the SQL Server Management Pack, our old good friend, who now knows some new tricks. And here's some new tiny trick. Pay attention. It's a database summary dashboard, which I want to show you today. Thing which you never could see in any SQL, in any management pack in SCOM. It's like a real breakthrough which we've done for SQL Server team. And right now, SQL Server Management Pack not just look cool and smart on the inside. We are ready to introduce a new phase of the SQL Server MP, which definitely looks more like a phase than before. By the way, let's look what we have here on this dashboard. It's a database summary dashboard, which provides you a real single pane of glass to database information. So here we have a pretty standard thing. It's a state view, which allows us to choose a database which we want to show on this dashboard. And when I choose some dashboard here, whole dashboard is updated, and I can see on all controls here specific information for my database, which I just chosen. So at the right side, so it's some details about database, but of course the most important part is the new controls. For example, here you can see the stack chart, which provides us detailed information about space consumed by our database. Here we can see not only space allocation for the database itself inside of database file. Of course, you know that we monitor also disk space if auto-growth setting is enabled for database. It's existing functionality, and of course we showed on this dashboard. And here we can see information about space. And not only here, because we also have some smart charts, we called it, which provides us information in real time, of course, as dashboard at all, information about database total free space and log free space for this database. And I want to be bad today and simulate some failure related with space. Let's think how we can do it. Of course, we can put a lot of data inside of my database, but sometimes it could be happening with a different reason. For example, I have some very bad, really nasty operations who decided to put some file to my drive where I allocate my database. And so I just copy some, not too big, but big enough file to disk where I have my database. And right now I can see, either in computer, at my computer, that there are no any free space at disk E, where one of files of my database is allocated. Which is supposed to be that, okay, so it could be not a big issue, because actually I have two files in my database, and second file allocated on the disk F, where I have some free space. But I don't enable the autogrowth setting for that file, which means that right now my database, where files already fulfilled with data, right now this database is not healthy. Let's go to our dashboard and look how what we can see right now there. Oh, so at least we can see that our smart chart turns to red light. What it means? As a threshold, it's very clear that we've introduced not just the charts here. They are smart because they show us the related monitor state. So it's very intuitive. When you just look to this dashboard, right now you can see what's going on. You can see that this monitor is not in healthy state. And so I believe that in a few seconds we also can see that on a big dashboard, on a big stack chart, we also have updated information about consumed space. At the same time, right now, I want to pay attention to another part of this dashboard. Of course, we also show here the alerts which we show, which we've got. Okay, so right now, all information, including charts, also updated. You can see that. Okay, this part should be enough. Okay, our line crossed the threshold, and so on our smart chart, we can see that total free space is degraded, and right now we have only 3% available, which is critical for any database, of course. And if we go to alert, we also can see that the database is out of space. Look to our scenario. I want to show you that this dashboard is not just nice or good looking. It really helps operations to resolve issues, because we have all things which we need on the same screen. Right now we go to alert, which we have, and go to product knowledge. And so here, of course, so operations usually need to go right now go to resolution and detect, okay, what can I do here? And the first way to resolve this issue is pretty straightforward. Increase allocated size for a file and turn auto-grow on. And I know that in this case, I can fix this issue this way very easily. So I'm closing this knowledge base and go to my SQL Server. Right now, let's go to our space monitoring database and look to these properties. Right now, in files, we definitely can see that we have auto-grow enabled for only one file. For second file, you can see that auto-grow settings is set to false, to none. And I just enabled easily. So right now, when I press OK, right now, we can be sure that both files and the database itself is able to consume whole space on both disk drives. Either if disk E has no any free space, we have a lot of free space on the second drive. And right now, we can go to the operations manager and check that it's fast enough to show us that we've resolved this issue. Let's go there. OK. It will be fast enough, absolutely. I hope that it will be soon. Right now, we just can see that it's captured during some time when we had that issue. It showed us information about the free space, and it shown us information on a smart chart. It should update pretty fast. Right now, I just want to show you another capability of this dashboard. Another good thing which we can have here. It's not so straightforward as other things which I just shown to you. We can just right-click on this smart chart and, for example, go to diagram view. Right from here, we don't need to find the same database in state view or either. We just can click anywhere on this dashboard and review the structure of the database. So here I can confirm that we have two files on disk F and on disk E, and they still suffer from some issue. Let's double check that. Okay, so right now you can see, you know that usually SCOM react in minutes. So right time we have a very fast demo. And by the way, SCOM is able to react on it. So right now we already can see that smart chart is already changed state because our monitor did it faster than performance collection rules. And we already can see that everything is OK with our database because smart chart is turned to green state. And other controls also will be updated, for example, in a minute. And operations can see that issue is resolved because in real life, usually it takes some time. And right now we can see that, OK, on our big, nice stack chart, we also crossed the threshold line in different direction, and right now everything is OK. But this case is not only one case which I want to show you today about usage of this new dashboard. I want to show you how we can figure out with issue when our disk overloaded. So for this simulation scenario, I'm using the pretty popular utility called SQL IO. This utility is created to simulate load on the disk drives with SQL Server. And again, I want to be very nasty right now. I create a lot of load for these drives. Let's go to performance monitor, and so we can see that we've created very huge impact. We create huge load to drive G, where files of our database are located. Let's go back to SCOM and look what we have here to detect this situation. First of all, let's focus on another database. I called it Latency Database because it's mostly related with it. Oh, SCOM is so fast. Look, I just ran that utility, and we already have issue which shown here. Again, it's not expressed as a change on the chart, but we already have a state changed. We already can see a red light here, and and of course right now, okay, read latency also changed, And so we already know that it's not okay with our latency database right now. There's not so good case for us. And while we're waiting when other charts will be updated, let's pay attention. Okay, we can see that everything is not okay. And we need to figure out, okay, what's going on. So these monitors usually tell us that there could be several reasons, like 2 reasons which I just shown to you. It could be a serious performance impact by SQL Server itself. And the second reason, it could be impact from the third-party utility, which we know right now happens. And some other smart charts here help us to detect this case. Because here we have charts which show us information about their performance counters, which I mentioned at the start of my speech. Active sessions, requests, connections, and transactions. And here it's pretty clear. We have absolutely 0 there. This database is not used right now. But when somebody wants to use it, he can do it because disk overloaded. So in this case, when we can see the value of these 4 performance counters as a 0, it's pretty straightforward that this performance issue on this disk drive caused by some other application. Just to example, I want to show you how usually for normal database, like for example, Operations Manager database, these charts looks like. Yeah, we can see that this database really used. Yes, there are no 0 values. And if for this database we will face with some performance issue on disk drives, okay, we can bind these things together and detect what's going on. But when we talk about our latency database, these performance counters and these smart charts helps us to detect that it's not a SQL Server reason, SQL Server issue. It's a SQL Server issue, but he's not caused it. Right now we can see that charts already updated. We can see some spike there. Look, yeah. Not only monitor values, we also can see that trend, that triangle sign. When that trend that it raised up, we can see real value, we can see chart. And right now, it's a good time to understand, okay, so what we can figure out. There are several ways. The easiest way here just to kill process which affect my favorite, my lovely SQL Server. Should I kill it for you? No? Let's allow that third-party application to affect our business. Let's kill it and free our SQL Server. Okay. Usually when I run this utility on this machine, it just affect all processes on this machine. Fortunately, right now it allowed me just to relog on and work. Okay. Right now we can see in Performance Monitor that we have 0 values there. That's great, and I hope that SCOM will tell me very soon that everything is okay here. Yeah. Let's go back to our Operations Manager and wait for a couple of minutes when it updates. Right now, let me also tell you slightly more about this dashboard, because let's pay attention that just, of course, it's intuitive, but especially for you or for a person who just missed a chance to attend this session. It's so sad. But fortunately, he has a legend which allows him to understand what everything means. We can see that smart charts where we have no monitor attached, it just has a blue color, which is like a modern UI style. But for monitors, for smart charts where we have monitors attached, so we can count on error warning or healthy colors, which are very, which we're familiar with, because it's traditional color on road lights, in SCOM, etc. Right now we have a happy ending because of both issues is resolved. And I shown to you how this new usage experience, how this new dashboard allow operations, allow you, allow all of us to resolve issues. It's not just a nice thing. It really helps us. It's the biggest thing which we can provide to operations, to make complex thing simpler, to visualize it, to allow you understand what's going on with your environment from the first look. So that's what we've done for you, and what we are going to continue to do the next time. Because I believe that all IT operations, DBAs, IT administrators who work with SQL Server deserve the best monitoring solution. And I want to be sure that we can provide this best monitoring solution in the SQL Management Pack for you. Thank you so much. First best practice which I want to provide to you, it's a grouping. Group everything, group instances, create groups for databases. Because I have seen a lot of times when we have a lot of overrides for every instance, for every database, and after that, you will go to hell with no option because you just can't figure out what's going on in your environment. That's why you need to create reasonable grouping in instances and databases and apply configuration changes on groups preferable. Of course, I said reasonable because if you create, for example, development, staging, and production groups and allocate your database and instances across these groups, it's reasonable because health state for SQL Server in development is different comparing with the production environment. I hope that it's pretty clear. For example, a lot of creepy stuff could happen in development, and operations don't need to care about it because developers just play there. Everything is okay. It's a developer's game. But on production, it's absolutely unacceptable. But if you want to create, for example, groups like Africa, Europe, Asia, and the United States, so it's clear that it's not useful because I hope that your servers should have the same behavior in Africa and the United States with no any differences. I just can't imagine. Maybe in your case, somehow it can happen. But in going about the general advice, it must be reasonable grouping. And I want to pay another attention to database grouping. Because either if we have a lot of databases in one DB engine, sometimes you also need to group it because you know that, for example, at least system databases like MasterDB, TempDB system, they need to be monitored somehow else because they used different way. You also may have, for example, some reporting database which need to be monitored different way comparing with, let's call it, for example, online transaction processing database. It's truly different scenarios with a different monitoring approach. Next best practice. It's rather addressing to advisor because we should try to use the predictive monitoring as much as possible, to be proactive as much as possible. Because actually in SQL Server Management Pack we have some rules regarding space monitoring. When you can see alert from this rule, it usually means that you already did. I mean, your SQL Server is already dead. Because, for example, it's not a lack of free space. There are no free space. And the next transaction will fail with no options. So, of course, this monitor also can say you that, okay, please prepare for funeral. But I definitely want to ask you, try to use predictive monitoring. Let's call it defensive monitoring. Like we say about the defensive driving, when you drive such way to prevent any accident. Not and here I'm talking about monitoring, the same. Let's try to monitor our SQL Server to prevent it from any failures. And of course, adjust thresholds which we have for performance monitors for your environment. Don't count on the default values. It's better to be paranoid for the first time, to set low threshold, for example, and then raise it up step by step. And when finally you said, okay, so right now I have no alert noise. And the third best practice, which I want to share with you, it's a using of low privilege. In the SQL Server Management Pack, we provided a lot of runners profiles, which allow you to configure monitoring of the SQL Server Management Pack, either if it's clustered environment, either if it's always on deployment. you're able to configure it to access all monitoring tools, all monitoring APIs, DMVs, etc., with the lowest privilege which you can provide. Because otherwise, you have to be a very brave person to be sure that nobody who have access to SCOM want to try to do something with your SQL Server, something bad. Because we already learned from today's session that sometimes operations could be really bad. And it's better to prevent them from doing some bad stuff with our SQL Server, especially sometimes we persist in that SQL Server very critical information. And one more thing. It's like a biggest and most important best practice which I want to share with you. It's caused a lot of issues with the SQL Server monitoring. And it's very simple for you, it's very easy for you to follow it. Please, read the operations guide which we've created for you. We've spent a lot of time to put all things which you need to know about the SQL Server Management Pack monitoring in our operations guide. There we describe the low privilege configuration. There we described some key monitoring scenarios. And so please read it. Of course, sometime in the future, we'll provide you one giant dashboard and you will not need any operations guide. But so right now, I definitely recommend you please read the manual which we developed for you.